feature described in this lesson is probably more useful for higher-level language compilers that generate assembly code, but assembly language programmers could find it useful also. The context stack is maintained by the preprocessor. You create a new context with the push directive. Every context is assigned a name and is first created on top of the context stack. If you define a new context, the previous one is pushed down on the stack to make room for the new one to be on top. Then to delete a context, you use the pop directive, which removes the context and all it contains from the top of the stack and discards it. You can have several contexts on the stack at the same time, and they can all have the same names. They're kept separate by their positions on the stack. You can define symbols that are only defined within the current context by beginning them with a %sign and a $. The symbol has the definition you gave it only when the current context is on top of the stack. This gives you the ability to have labels defined in separate macros and be recognized by one another. For example, you could write a repeat until loop in 2 macros. The repeat macro, shown here, could be the top of the loop. Then at the bottom of the loop, you could use another macro to define the jump to the original label. It performs the test at the bottom of the loop and jumps to the label. Then it pops the context off the stack. By using the context this way, it would be possible to nest these macro pairs inside one another without the labels getting confused. It's the ability to use the macros without concern of what's inside the loop that makes this feature so convenient. And you can define constants that are known only inside the context. This statement defines a name for the value 10, and that value is known only in the context on the top of the stack. So you would refer to the value by name this way. If a new context is subsequently created and pushed onto the top of the stack, the label in the context below it can still be accessed with a slight modification to the name this way. Now if you want to replace the context on the top of the stack so you have a context with a new name, you can do that with a pop followed by a push. However, when you do this, you will remove all the labels and symbols defined in the context. To change the name of a context and retain all its contents, you can use the replace command. And you can check the name of the context on top of the stack by using the if context directive. This directive results in true only if the name specified is the name of the current context. And just like the other if directives described earlier, this one has some other forms. This is the if not context name and the else if context name, and of course the else if not context